Start for Trice. That's Chase, and what a start for Cincinnati. And he has the football. Bijan Robinson, he's going to have his first touchdown. Gibbs out of the backfield right away. Oh, yeah, there's no question that he was grabbed. But they got ridiculous. They got Gibbs one-on-one with Andrew Van Ginkel in space, and that was it. And this is, again, it's man-to-man. It's one-on-one, and he's underneath. He loses his balance. Block Bowers is one of those guys that has a – and this is –
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Fatboyz Dynasty Podcast, coming at you live on the Fantasy Holics Podcast Network, presented by the Fantasy Holics. I'm Bo. This is Brant. Hey, Brant, it feels pretty good today. Training camps officially got underway for all 32 teams. Definitely feeling pretty good about that, having everybody's teams report, getting some news when you get off work and out to your phone, or if you're a junkie and you're constantly checking it on your work computer. But we're finally getting some football news. It's a great time. We're getting into the swing of things, Brant. It feels good to have some stuff happening. We're just a little over a week away from an actual football game being played.
Yeah, what great news come out today. Jamal Adams is back in the NFL, back with Pete Carroll, just to be hurt in the preseason. I'll go ahead and take my shot at myself there before anybody else can. But yeah, news coming out. My phone, I don't know how many notifications I had with everybody reporting. Seattle officially signed everybody in their draft class, I think 2 days ago. We finally got everybody in. Everybody's back at camp. It's looking good. The season's here. It's actually here. It's not just these little bits and pieces. We're going to see news after every single day of training camp and everything else. So it is here. It feels great. We're, like you said, 8 days away from a football game. People will have pads and hitting each other at least.
Yeah, there'll be guys out there gutting it out for a roster spot, right? I mean, you're not going to see, you're not going to see a bunch of Justin Herbert and whatnot out there in this game, but there definitely will be some guys out there that are actually giving it some effort, trying to make some rosters here. So, but it's better than no football, right? But anyway, Brant, this week we're back continuing the trend. Did running backs last week, only natural. We're at you guys wide receivers this week, and it is a little deeper position. So we did go top 20 rather than the top 10 this week, but it's definitely I've got some names on here that I think are going to be interesting where I have them ranked. I'm not sure you'll agree with me, Brant, but definitely interested to see where you have some of these guys. I'm ready to get into it.
Yeah, mine I don't think is as risque as some people would like. I think I'm pretty at the point where I like what I got. I do have one in there that I'd like to see. But yeah, I'm going to kick it off right now. It's a guy I talked about a couple weeks ago in my undervalued. That's Davante Adams. I got him at number 20. I think he finishes inside the top 24. He has only 3 times in his career has he finished outside of the top 14. I do think he will struggle a little bit getting the flow of the Rams offense, but he is the number 2 guy there. So I do think he finishes as a top 20 wide receiver. And I do think it's an upgrade at quarterback. They're going with Stafford and an upgraded offense. So I do think Davante Adams finishes as a top 20 wideout.
Well, we're going to start this one off really nicely because I also have Davante Adams at number 20. Again, just like you mentioned, not going to be the number 1 in his offense, which has been a feeling we haven't had for Davante for a lot of years. But coming in to a Sean McVay offense with a Matthew Stafford, a couple of these guys are in the twilight of their career. And it'll be interesting to see if these guys can go put one more really good season out there together. And I do think that the Rams passing game, at least, is going to be very intriguing this year. So I got Davante Adams at number 20 as well, Brant.
Okay. Number 19 is a guy that I think you're very familiar with. I got Calvin Ridley to finish at number 19. I love the addition of Cam Ward there. He's a deep ball specialist. Calvin Ridley is great at catching the deep ball. No, I don't think the Titans are going to be knock off the table amazing. I do think they're going to trail a lot. I do think they're going to throw the ball a lot. Cam Ward, like I said, is a great deep ball passer, and I think Calvin Ridley is going to benefit from that, and I see him as finishing as number 19 in the wide receivers.
All right. I do have to be honest. I did leave Calvin Ridley out of my top 20, Brant. I just don't trust the Tennessee Titans offense at all. I want to see what Cam Ward brings to the table a little bit before it gets there. I did go with another. It's kind of feels like a very similar pick to number 20 for me. I did take Tyreek Hill at number 19. It's hard to want to put him any higher than that for me based on how he did last season. Definitely left a lot to be desired for those of us that took him, early in drafts or as our wide receiver one. There is still a Jalen Waddle in town. There's an very exciting running back room there in Miami. And we still do have concussion Tua throwing the ball. So, it makes me nervous. Could not justifiably leave Tyreek out. I just couldn't get myself to put him a whole lot higher just because of what the season looked like last year.
Yes, I'll talk about him just a little bit later because I do have him back in a little higher than that. So at number 18, this one hurts a little bit because I was really confused on which one to put. But I went with DJ Moore. I think he's still going to be the one there in the Bears offense. I do think Rome takes a huge step forward this year. I do think the Bears take a huge step forward. And I did put DJ Moore there because I do think I still classify him as the one. Now, if reports come out that it seems like it's Rome Odunze, this could be easily switched, in my opinion, to being Rome in the top 20 over DJ. But as for right now, I have to put one of those Bears receivers because I think that offense is going to be electric this year. So I have DJ Moore at number 18.
Yeah, again, that's a team we've spent a lot of time talking about this offseason. One of the greatest coaching hires of the cycle and Ben Johnson. You got Caleb Williams going into his second year, much upgraded offensive line. One of the pass catchers in Chicago is going to be a top 20 asset. It'll be very interesting to see which one it is. For me at 18, this one feels like it could go a little higher to me. I don't think it could go way higher, but it could be a little higher. There's just some new additions in this offense that kind of make me temper expectations a little bit. But I do have Ladd McConkey at 18. I think Ladd is a guy that I think a lot of people had some high expectations for, and then kind of started off slow and then really took the world by storm. But they did add Trey Harris in the second round, who a lot of people are saying is the most fluid wide receiver out of this year's class. So it'll be interesting to see how everything shakes out. And honestly, you still got Quentin Johnston in town. So, that's great for a few drops a game as well, taking targets away from Ladd. But again, I think Ladd McConkey could get up somewhere into the 15 area, maybe 12 if he has a really, really good year. I just think, how much time he spends in the slot is going to hurt him just a little bit on value, but I do have him at 18.
Okay. I'll talk about that just a little bit. I do have him just a few spots higher than 18. And just so you know, Quentin Johnston had 2 touchdowns, I think, on opening day of training camp. So, I mean, I don't know how many drops. They didn't put that.
I did not see that and look at it numerous different times, Brant. It never happened.
Number 17, I have JSN for the Seattle Seahawks. I think they're going to move him all over the formation. He finished as a top 10 wide receiver in PPR last year. With Sam Darnold getting there, it's going to be an RPO play action RPO style. I think JSN is just really good at finding the open space in the field and getting you fantasy points. This guy may not be knock your socks off fantasy guy, but he could easily be seeing 5 to 7 catches a game, and that's where his points and value is going to end up coming. Maybe he doesn't find the end zone as much, but I do think that he's going to find the space and he's going to be the number 1 guy there.
Having a Seahawk with everything changing there this year, I don't know if I buy into it just yet, Brant. Real quick before I move into my number 17, Jamie on there hanging out in the chat. Jamie, what's up, man? Thanks for tuning in with us. For me, Brant, 17, I went with a guy who I think I think the quarterback has a massive bounce back this year. I think the offense has a huge bounce back this year. And I genuinely think this team's defense might be among the worst in the league this year. So their offense is going to have to put points on the board. I got T. Higgins at 17. A lot of talk was T was going to leave this offseason, go be a wide receiver one someplace. He stayed and decided, hey, I'd rather stay with Joe Burrow, stay, playing the Robin to Jamar Chase's Batman. I just think Burrow's too good of a quarterback. And I think T. Higgins has to be inside your top 20.
Okay, absolutely. He is inside my top 20, not too far away. This next one at number 16, I'm not going to lie. I threw up a little bit in my mouth when I wrote this name down. But I think that this team is going to have to throw the ball to somebody, and he is a really good receiver. I put DK Metcalf at number 16. Honestly, a couple months ago when Pickens was there, I probably would have kept both of them out of the top 20. But I think you have to put him in there inside the top 20 because Rodgers is going to have to throw the ball to somebody, and I think DK is going to be that guy there. So I expect a decent year out of him, not a top 12, top 10 guy like most people think he's going to be. But I do think that he's going to have some explosion games and going to find himself finishing up in the top 16 this year.
DK Metcalf, another wide receiver I do not have on my board, Brant. Listen, Aaron Rodgers is getting up there in age. I don't buy into it. DK wanted to go someplace warm with a great quarterback, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, let's check out Pittsburgh, which is abysmally cold in the winter, who at the time didn't have a quarterback. And again, Aaron Rodgers, how many more years do we have? Granted, he had a good second half last season with New York. I just don't buy into it for a 16-game stretch. I think if Rodgers misses any time at all, DK getting passes from Mason Rudolph certainly looks a lot less appealing. So I just couldn't get myself there. I will tell you at 16, this is a guy I doubt you have in yours, Brant. Maybe I'm wrong. There is some news coming out about this guy here recently. I have Rashee Rice at 16. We know that the league moves at a turtle's pace sometimes. I can't leave him out of my rankings. Even if he misses 3 to 6 games, I think he is productive enough in this Kansas City offense and will have enough of a role. I still think he's a top 20 wide receiver if he misses a small chunk of the season. Now, you start talking over 6 games, over 4 or 5 games, maybe things are different. I can't leave Rashee Rice out. I think if there was no fear of a suspension, Brant, I think I could be talked into having him inside my top 8 pretty comfortably. But because there is that fear of suspension, I got Rashee Rice at 16.
Okay. I left him out with the fear of the suspension. I wanted to put him in. I probably stopped at every number from 15 down to put him in. I left him out with the fear of the suspension. I honestly think he's going to miss six plus games. But that could happen next year. Like you said, it's slow and steady. So it could end up next year. I did leave him out. My number 15 is the guy you already talked about. I think this defense is going to be absolutely abysmal, like you said. I have T. Higgins at number 15. I think they're going to throw the ball just like they always do. I think Chase Brown's going to be great. I think T. Higgins is going to be great. I think Jamar Chase is going to be great. I think Joe Burrow is going to be great because they're going to have to play every single drive that I have to score because my defense is not going to stop anybody. So I do have T. Higgins as number 15.
Okay. All right. At my number 15, I also have a guy you already talked about. I have DJ Moore of the Chicago Bears there again. Kind of like you alluded to earlier, that offense should just be really fun. And somebody is going to be a top 20 wideout in that offense, whether it's Rome, whether it's DJ. Right now, I'm in, like you said, DJ is the one until news comes out to change that or gameplay reflects that in a change. I'm going to roll as if it's DJ for now. So I have DJ at 15.
Okay, so at number 14, I have Ladd McConkey, who you already talked about. I do think that the slot helps him. I do think Trey will be on the outside. Quentin Johnston will be also on the outside. And I think Ladd McConkey is another guy that just finds himself in space, just turns a catch into multiple yaks. So I do have Ladd McConkey at number 14.
Okay. At my number 14, I think maybe I am the small victim here, Brant, of reading into a lot of offseason hype around this team and this offense. I have Marvin Harrison at 14. Not the greatest of rookie years. Kyler Murray's done some interviews this offseason where he's said, hey, I missed him way too often last year. I got to get the ball in his hands more. Marvin Harrison come into camp bigger, faster, stronger, maybe getting back into that Maserati Marv form that he had at Ohio State. I don't think it takes a whole lot for Marvin Harrison's season to be much better than it was last year. I think you're talking potential double-digit touchdowns from this year. I got Marvin Harrison inside the top 15 at 14, Brent.
Okay. All right. At number 13, I have Mike Evans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Man gets 1,000 yards. Chris Godwin's missing time. I do think Ibuka will make some noise there, but I still think Mike Evans is the go-to guy. I think he's going to be the end zone target. I think Mike Evans still gets pretty close to 1,000 yards, and I think he finishes as the number 13 wideout.
Again, I agree here. We have some similar feelings on some of the old guys. Obviously, you're a little higher on Tyreek than I am. But yeah, I have Mike Evans at 13 again. Baker is found it at this point in his career. Baker is exciting at this point in his career again. It makes the wide receivers around him look great. Mike Evans has been fantastic with Baker. And again, like you alluded to, no Chris Godwin. Even if Emeka Ibuka is great right off, this season in his rookie year, it's going to take him some time to get there, to develop that chemistry that Mike Evans is already working with. And I do think he's comfortably a 1,000-yard receiver, barring injury to himself or Baker this year, Brant.
Absolutely. So at my number 12, I have the other old guy that you had at 19. I've got Tyreek Hill. He missed Tua for 6 games last year. He had a down year. I do think that he is still the target guy. I still think he can get down the field and beat most of these corners in the league. I think Tyreek Hill finishes as a top 12 wide receiver.
Okay. All right. I said I was going to have to think about it a little bit more. I do have a Seahawks wide receiver. I have Jackson Smith-Njigba at 12. DK Metcalf is gone. This guy is going to be Sam Darnold's number one target. This is going to be the number one target in the Seahawks offense for a lot of years to come. Definitely, honestly, what I saw in Jackson Smith-Njigba last year reminded me of a speedier version of Ladd McConkey. I think JSN is a guy that could end up with double-digit touchdowns. I do think there's a small chance, obviously, just because of addition and subtraction that's happened. Maybe that Seahawks offense takes a small step back, but I think it's no DK Metcalf to contend with for Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to skyrocket his production this year.
Okay. All right. So at number 11, I have a guy that you already talked about. I got Marvin Harrison Jr. of the Arizona Cardinals. This is another team that I think is going to throw the ball a lot. I do think McBride is going to be the one favorite target for Kyler, but I do see Marvin Harrison getting back on track for the guy that we all were hyping up to be that number one guy last year. I do think Marvin Harrison gets back on track, and I do think that he finds himself inside the top 12.
Okay. For me, I went with another classmate of Marvin Harrison's last year. I went with Brian Thomas here. And again, for me, this is one that I think a lot of consensus have him inside the top 10. I do think Travis Hunter hurts that a lot. Not enough that I take him completely out because, again, outside of those two, who the heck's catching passes? And I will say this, even though it was one of the most cringy head coaching introductions I've ever seen, I think offensively, Liam Cohen is going to make a big difference in this offense. If you look at what Liam Cohen did in Tampa Bay with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, I think you can see this two wide receiver set work very well here. Brian Thomas, for me, had too good of a rookie season to let come out of the top 20. I just could not squeeze him into my top 10, Brant.
This is a guy that I really wanted to put a lot higher. And at number 10, I have Brian Thomas. I really wanted to put him a lot higher because of what he was able to do in that offense, where it was just – that was atrocious to watch last year. The Jags were after what the year before they did, and they looked phenomenal. I have Brian Thomas at number 10. I do think that offense starts to get back on track. This is a guy that, as training camp goes, he could slide down, but I don't think he falls outside of my top 15 because I think that offense really starts to click.
Okay. All right. At my number 10, I have A.J. Brown of the Philadelphia Eagles. Listen, I have been the most adamant person on probably fantasy sites saying I don't really like Jalen Hurts as a passer. I don't. I don't love it. I think Jalen Hurts is great for fantasy for himself, but maybe he's my new Lamar Jackson, who I hate until I get over that and love Lamar like I do now. But again, I just think A.J. Brown has had too good of a career. He's done it too many times. If I took him out of the top 10 altogether, I think I would be one of the most hated men in the community. So I definitely have A.J. Brown inside my top 10.
Okay, I have AJ just a couple steps higher than that. At my number 9, I have Garrett Wilson. I think that, once again, somebody has to catch the ball there. I think he's too good not to put inside the top 10. I do think he's going to find the end zone. I like Garrett Wilson. I do like the fit that Fields is bringing to that team too. He's the guy that I don't trust passing yet, but I have seen it. I talked about how I feel. If Fields is going to finish as a top 6 quarterback, he's going to have to be able to throw some touchdowns and hit somebody. And I think Garrett Wilson will finish as inside the top 10.
All right, real quick before I talk about my number 9, got a couple more people chiming in on the comments. Brandon says sleeper is Christian Kirk. We'll see. I'm interested to see how that fit is with the Houston Texans. We'll see. I think there's a lot of mouths to feed down there in Houston now. We'll see. It could be. And then last but not least, Jennifer, always hanging out with us. What's up, Jennifer? Good to see you back.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Thank you. We appreciate it.
All right. So for me at my number 9, Brant, I have Garrett Wilson of the New York Jets. Again, I kind of thought this might be the one that you were a little less high on than I was. Clearly very copacetic here because I do think you believe in Justin Fields a little bit more than I do. I think this is purely a volume deal for Garrett Wilson more than I think it's a, nod of the cap to Justin Fields as a passer. If you look at Justin Fields in his time in Chicago, he wasn't ever great, but Darnell Mooney did have I think a top 12 wide receiver season his rookie year when the two of those were paired together when there was nobody else to throw to. I think this is a very similar situation. And, I think head coach Aaron Glenn's going to want this to be a tough physical team that plays and wins defense first. So I don't think there'll be a lot of scoring opportunities, but I think Garrett Wilson probably still has somewhere in the neighborhood of 140 targets when season's in, just because there ain't a whole lot else there when you're already starting the season talking to Allen Lazard, your wide receiver 2. Things aren't great. So yeah, I'm in agreement with you on number 9, Brent.
Okay. Number 8, I have AJ Brown. I am a little bit better of a believer in the passing of Jalen Hurts, not a whole lot. More. I have rode that coattail in our dynasty league since I think year 1 of Jalen Hurts, and I do believe that AJ Brown finishes inside the top 10. Okay.
All right. For me, I've got at number 8, I've got Malik Neighbors. I think Malik Neighbors, the quarterback situation's not going to be great. It's going to be some form of Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, and Jackson Dart. I just think that we saw Malik Neighbors battle through, some tough quarterback play last year and still put up those fantasy numbers. So, for me, Brant, I just thought one New York wideout to the next. It's Malik for me at number 8.
Okay. My number 7 guy, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think he takes a little step backwards without Ben Johnson. It's a new offensive coordinator there. So it may take a little bit of time. I still think that he's the best receiver on that team. And I think that he still finishes inside the top 10. I just have him at number 7. I don't see him as being as explosive, especially with Jamison Williams probably getting back to fully healthy and showing we saw multiple times last year how fast he could get down the field and catch the ball and take over a game as well. We saw a couple games where Williams looked really good. So I think St. Brown finishes at number 7.
All right. Listen, I think this next guy at number 7, I think I'm trying to think. We talked a little bit before the show started. You're like, hey, I got a guy that everybody else taking in their top 10 that I don't even have. And I'm wondering if this is this guy here. I think it probably is. I could be wrong. But just based on, talking every week on these shows and in between about, the off season, I'm wondering, Brant, I have number 7. I have Nico Collins. I'm wondering if that's the guy you left out just because of how many mouths there are to feed. Listen, we saw CJ Stroud have a sophomore slump last year. I do think that sophomore slump bounces back, or he bounces back from that sophomore slump this year. I think there is, Nico Collins, when he's on the field, is very dominant. I have been on record numerous times, and I'll still stay here with that flag plant. I think Jaden Higgins is going to be very detrimental to Nico Collins' success. I just think Nico still is too good this year to write him off completely.
Nico Collins is the one that I do have left out. I talked about it a few weeks ago. I think he's one of the biggest busts this year, is going in the first round of a lot of drafts. I don't trust it. Too many mouths to feed. And then you added all that to the backfield as well, and with Nick Chubb and Woody Marks. So I don't trust that. I don't trust any of them finishing in the top 20. I do think that they will have valuable weeks, but I just don't. I don't feel that. I don't feel that he's going to have enough valuable weeks to put him up there.
Okay.
Excuse me. So at my number 6, I got a guy that I called the bust last year because I thought it was a flash in the pan, and he wasn't. I've got Puka Nacua at number 6 this year. Stafford, that offense always is high-powered, always high-scoring, tough to slow down. I think Puka Nacua finishes number 6. He showed it last year that he's able to do it. So I do like Puka Nacua up there.
I also have Puka Nacua at 6, Brant. Again, he's explosive when he gets the ball in his hands. Sean McVay is a smart enough head coach. He's going to find a lot of ways to do that. Matthew Stafford's a proven winner. He's going to find a way to do that. Puka Nacua is, he's appropriately ranked. I think firmly inside the top 10 as long as he stays healthy. Maybe because of how good his wide receiver 2 is, that may be enough to hold him back just a smidge. But I like Puka Nacua at 6, Brant.
Okay. So my number 5 is Malik Neighbors. My 4 and 5, I literally have arrows on this because I switched them twice. So I do have Malik Neighbors at number 5, though. The quarterback play is up in the air. I think that Russell Wilson's a little more accurate than probably a lot of them on that team right now. But I do think that you're going to see every quarterback out there, and I think Malik Neighbors is going to be a volume guy, just like we talked about Garrett Wilson.
For me at number 5, I've got my boy Drake London. I could have easily moved Drake a little higher. Listen, this is going to be the best season of quarterback play that Drake London has had in his career. He's had a banged up Kirk Cousins for over half the season. He's had Marcus Mariota. He's had Desmond Ridder. And in 3 games with Michael Penix last year, he was phenomenal. That game to end the season, it was like 180 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns on like 15 receptions. Just his career game. I think the sky is the limit for Drake London with Michael Penix under center. I can't wait to watch it every week, even though I'm going to be, increasingly frustrated by that team. But I do have Drake London at my number 5, where I think there's room for him to move up even, Brant.
I have Drake London at number 4. I'm a Penix believer, always have been. For the last, even in college, I liked him all the way back in Indiana. I liked what he brought. I know the injuries really hurt him, and I do think that he's going to bring out the best in London. As we saw the last 2 weeks, you had wide receiver 24, then he, like you said, 187 yards and 2 touchdowns on 18 targets. He had 8, 13, and 18 in the last 3 weeks there with Penix. So he obviously has shown that Penix trusts him. He's going to feed him the ball, and if you see that all year long, you're talking as this guy could easily sneakily move into the top or be the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy. Now, I do think that's hard when I had Bijan as the number 1 running back, so I can't put them both as number 1 because then I'd be saying your Falcons have to have the best offense in the NFL pretty much.
Hey, Wake, you never know. It could happen. It won't, but it could. At my number 4, I have a guy that I can't believe I'm slowly getting to be more of a believer in than you are. I have Amon-Ra St. Brown at number 4. I do think there's a lot of criminality happening in the fantasy industry where it's like, hey, we're all saying, hey, Ben Johnson was the reason this team was great. Ben Johnson, called, some really good plays, but it took Jared Goff putting the ball in these guys' hand. It took Amon-Ra St. Brown running good routes, always finding space. It took Jahmyr Gibbs hitting holes at 90 miles an hour. These players still make the plays at the end of the day. And I think a lot of, of what that's going to be is just simply getting the ball into their hands. I think Detroit's offense is still going to be one of those offenses that you could see this team average 30 points a game this season. It would not shock me at all. I think that NFC North is going to be your four best gladiators throwing down in the middle of the arena, if you will, just giving each other everything they've got. And I think if that happens, if Goff doesn't take a massive step back, and if this offense does still have a little bit of rhythm, Amon-Ra St. Brown has to be a top 5 wide receiver for me.
Okay, absolutely. So I have at number 3, I have CD Lamb. This is probably the best number 2 receiver he's had in the last 3 years. That's going to help take some pressure off him. We know this team loves to pass the ball. They didn't do a whole lot to improve the running back core there. I think CeeDee Lamb is going to have to continue to be the focus there. I do like the Pickens ad. I don't think it's going to be great for Pickens fantasy wise. I do think he'll be salvageable in fantasy, but I think this is going to help take some pressure off of CeeDee Lamb and get him more open where they can't just blanket him and then you have a safety over the top for the third guy on top of one receiver. So I do think CeeDee Lamb's going to have one of his better years this year.
Yeah, I also have CeeDee Lamb at 3. Again, as a CeeDee Lamb owner in a league or two and a CeeDee Lamb truther, I don't think the addition of George Pickens scares me in the slightest. I think instead of having 14 targets a game, CeeDee Lamb has 12 targets a game, and they're just that much more open because you're right. There is another guy that Dak Prescott could potentially throw the ball to. I think CeeDee Lamb has another great year. That Cowboys offense should, at least it appears to be, is going to be somewhat one-dimensional. So if that happens, then if they don't get a run game established, then I think 3 is a ceiling for CD.
Okay, absolutely. At number 2, I have Justin Jefferson there of the Minnesota Vikings because I'm still not 100% sold on who is throwing the football there. I know everybody says it's JJ, but I'm not completely sold that he'll be 100% and ready for the season. I know he's out there in training camp, but I do think he's going to struggle out of the gate, and that's why he's at 2, because I think he's going to miss chances in the first 3 to 5 weeks of being the top fantasy wide receiver in the first 3 to 5 weeks. And he could easily, if JJ doesn't figure it out, McCarthy, not Jefferson, if he doesn't figure that out early, Jefferson could be outside of the top 20 and be on some panic meters early in the season.
Yeah, so it's interesting. This does then mean, Brant, that you and I are in sync on 7 out of 20, which I'm impressed by because our top 3 will be identical. I have Justin Jefferson at 2 also. Again, it's more of a JJ McCarthy thing than it is a Justin Jefferson thing, and I know Justin Jefferson's been through some quarterback gauntlets as well with Darnold, Kellen Mond, Kirk Cousins. There's been some names there as well, but I do think when you talk about JJ McCarthy, this is a kid that I think wasn't asked to go win games in Michigan. He was kind of a game manager for that Michigan Wolverines national championship team. I do think this is a kid that is going to end up being a very good quarterback in the NFL. And I do think he's going to have some allow Justin Jefferson to be very fantasy relevant. He's not going to be a gunslinger. He's not going to be a Joe Burrow. I don't think, I'll be, like I said, I'll be the first to admit when I'm wrong. If he ends up being that, you'll hear me say it on here. I just don't expect him to be a gunslinger to potentially throw 50 touchdown passes in a season like I think Joe Burrow has the potential to do. So just because of the fact that I think quarterback play is such a vast difference between the Vikings and the Bengals for me, I do also have Jett at 2, Brant.
Okay. And at number 1, I have Jamar Chase, and it's because we talked about not just the quarterback play. I think you also got to talk. I think Minnesota's going to have a lot better defense than the Cincinnati Bengals will this year. So you're talking a team that may hang 21 points to a team that might have to hang 50 every other week just to compete in a game. So that's why I have Jamar Chase as number 1.
And listen, the Bengals kicking game may take a step back because I heard they were talking about taking Evan McPherson and giving him some snaps at DN. So, hey, listen, it's there's nobody else to do it. You draft Shamar Stewart, he ain't there. Trey Hendrickson's holding out. That defense is going to be, unless things change dramatically in the next month and a half, one of the worst defenses in the National Football League, which is going to make the offense put points on the board, which is going to force feed Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, touches. Yeah, for me, it simply boils down to Joe Burrow being a better quarterback than J.J. McCarthy and how woeful I expect the Bengals defense to be. And that's why Jamar Chase is at 1 for me. Honestly, again, Brant, I can't believe how in step we were with a lot of these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. It was kind of crazy. Like I said, we only had 2. You had Nico and Rice inside, which, like I said, Rice could have easily came inside my top 20. And then I had Ridley and DK, the only 2 that were out of the top 20 that we weren't even close on. It was really weird to see, especially since all we did was literally go, hey, we're doing top 20 wide receivers. That's about all we've talked about over the last few weeks since we've been doing our rankings. It's going to be interesting. This training camp and everything else is going to be fun. The plus side is with Bengals being so gross on defense, Seattle shouldn't be the worst defense in the NFL anymore. So that is the plus side of this, talking about the Bengals defense. But yeah, this has been fun. I think we have tight ends. Next week, we'll do some tight ends. That'll probably be a shorter episode, but we will do some tight ends. And then we're going to have to get into some mock drafts and some other things. Our sleepers, as we saw, we did have somebody come out and say Christian Kirk is their sleeper. So we're definitely going to have to get back into our sleepers after some of these news come out.
Real quick, we've had a little bit longer of an episode than we normally do. I want to get your thoughts on this real quick. I left him out. I know you left him out too. I don't know as though the rest of the fantasy community agrees with us. Ted McMillan, neither one of us had him inside of our top 20. Was he close? Was he on your radar? Just real quick, if you want to speak on what your thoughts are on him this year, and then I'll quickly go over mine as well.
He was on my radar to be at number 20 there, but what we saw at the end of the year with Bryce Young is how well he spread that ball out. I know Thielen was good, but I think that's how Bryce Young has to play. He has to spread the ball out. So I don't think that he's going to sustain a top 20 wideout this season. And maybe over the future he might, but I think Ted was in my thoughts, but I don't think he even would have cracked my top 24.
Yeah, I'm going to say this, Brant, and again, maybe this is an outlandish take. I wouldn't have him inside my top 30 if I sat down and figured it out right this second, because again, you've got Jalen Coker, who had some games down the stretch for that Panthers team. You've got Xavier Legette, who they drafted in the first round last year, or the first pick in the second, wherever he was, right there. You've got the ageless wonder and Adam Thielen, who's catching balls. You've got Jatavion Sanders at tight end, who I think is going to be very special. And like you said, Bryce Young spreads the ball around. And the biggest thing for me, Brant, is if you take Ted McMillan out of this year's class and you drop him into last year's class, I don't think I have him in front of Brian Thomas Jr. as a prospect. I don't think I have him in front of Marvin Harrison as a prospect or Malik Neighbors. I'm not sure where I would have had him in my rankings last year. And because of that, I just don't think I buy in on him as being that big of a fantasy stud in year one. He may be a damn good wide receiver over the course of his career, but for year one, I think my expectations are just a smidge lower.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. I did get a watch. Like I said, I watched a lot of Arizona's games. I do think he is a special wide receiver. I just don't think he's fantasy special. I think he's going to be a great field stretcher to help that offense out. So I think that wraps it up for us. So tune in next week. And as always, stay hungry.
Stay fat, my friends.